Hello?
You know, everybody tells me that you and I should be doing a morning show.
Why is that, man?
Well, just because we have that flow, man, in the mornings. But now I think we should do a morning show for everybody. Today's Wednesday. I think it's like 4 months until the fat man comes, until Christmas Eve. You can believe that. Can you believe 2022 is gone, Game Talk? Can you believe that?
Yeah, it's kind of amazing, actually. It's crazy.
Hey, man, everybody I talk to is like going, man, I thought 2020 was strange until I got to 2021, and then I got to 2022, and all the rules got thrown out the window. So it's not just us. It's everywhere I go. And I was driving 562 miles a day, but now I'm speaking to you under my barbecue shed after – I think it was a Sunday conversation, and people couldn't believe that I'd call you on a Sunday and go, dude, talk to me philosophically, and you play along. But you do that sometimes, don't you? You mean you can.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Oh yeah, I can shift gears most of the time until I get too technical, and then I got to go. Wait a minute, I got to back up and get philosophical. But sometimes they marry together. The technical and the philosophical can. I can't speak either. The open-mindedness can actually work together sometimes, I mean, because you got to look at, Nikola Tesla and stuff. I mean, heck, you don't think he just pulled that stuff out of his butt, did you? He made it out of his imagination, So he had an open mind with scientific things, and it let him imagine things, Because ours tends to be against all over the place, like ping pong balls.
Yeah. I don't think that ours is any worse than anybody else's. In fact, it's in one trajectory, okay? And a lot of people, I've had conversations with people. I have conversations with people every day. But now, the thing of it is, though, what you're talking about there is a yin-yang. The yin-yang. And, of course, it's like you got to get that spiral moving, you got to have catalysts, in a chemical reaction. And whatever it is, there's a catalyst. There's somebody that comes in and puts a stick in a sand and says, across this line, to quote Lebowski movie, The Big Lebowski, across this line you do not cross. Also, it's Asian American. I think I messed that line up. Anyway, your turn.
Well, we talked earlier today. I have read a few things about Delphi. And I didn't read too much on it. I mean, I saw where, they had released about it doing that search, and then how there's been a follow-up on some possible video footage and a couple other things. You had a spot you can talk about that if you know a little more about it?
Well, there's a couple of things that popped up. Number one is that the Murder Sheet group, they released a podcast in the past couple of days, maybe Tuesday, but they were talking about the ineptitude of the FBI. And I don't know. We've heard that recently. I don't know. But anyway, so I don't know if I should believe them or if they're just haters of the FBI or if this is, they didn't approach it from that perspective. They didn't make it political like, other things are political these days. But they were like, look here, there was a guy that was in the Indianapolis office, the head guy, and he made some mistakes and he was kicked out of office. And but he made lots of mistakes. Lots and lots of mistakes, according to the Murder Sheet group. But anyway, so one of those mistakes was that they were supposed to be collecting camera data from all the surrounding stores right after Delphi, which is back in 2017, 2013, and 2014, 2017, and they did not collect it. Perhaps it got put onto a thumb drive wrong. Whatever happened, I don't know the specifics of it. But I do know that the data was erased. So, there's been some searches that are tied back to Keegan. I call him Keegan just because of the fact that I like to say Keegan compared to the Key. But anyway, so there was some, because he liked to catfish, Anyway, but anyway, so there were some things tied back that they missed there. They did not get the data from those cameras, okay? And then the other thing with Keegan was that he recently spent some time with the Indiana State Police. It's so cool that we talk about the Indiana State Police, but I was talking to a guy today, and he before he worked where I spoke with him today, making lawnmowers. He worked with a Toyota plant up in Indiana, and I didn't know this, but Subaru and Toyota have some commonality amongst engines. But anyway, so with Kagan up there with this Indiana police and all these problems they have going on, them not catching this, that is the footage of a store that he had been Googling on the day that was very important. They didn't connect up with that data. They did not connect up with the data the day after, which is Valentine's Day of 2017. They missed all of that data. They have absolutely no idea about the data associated with the Delphi girls, the girls from Delphi, Indiana. But, you know, this weird thing of Keegan being over there spending time with the ISP, his court case being moved way back to January of 2023, there seems to be something going on. And, of course, a lot of people are speculating about what's going on with these revelations. I mean, there's a lot of holes to fill in there. So this is a very potholed road. There's a lot of things going on there. You know, that guy I talked to about a little bit ago up there that was working with Toyota, and he knew about Subaru. You know, he knew about the case, and he was like going, wow, that's not been solved yet? Because he didn't know about it all these intervening years. He was there at the time, working with Toyota near this. And, like, he heard about the case, but he did not know that it had not been solved yet. And that is kind of weird, you know, when you think about it, because, you know, you see all this stuff going on right now with Kagan and his dad and these computers being traced, as you mentioned, and, you know, what he searched for, and the very fact that it was missed. Can you fucking believe that the day that they needed, in this station that was like right near where all this went down, they don't have the data from it? I mean, can you envision that? Can you even imagine that being the case? I mean, if you're a detective, that would be like having your, well, Tamau would say that's like being a one-leg, that's been like a one-leg man in an ass-kicking contest, is what it sounds like to me. What about you?
Yeah, you pretty much shoot yourself in the foot. Well, you know, with being the ineptitude of, you know, the FBI, but, you know, I won't say any of that nature because, hey, I mean, you know, you have to think, like, how many people's hands did that fumble through before it got to that? I mean, you had the local detectives, the state detectives, and before the FBI. So really just saying, you know, the ineptitude of the FBI, it's probably not completely fair. But you also got to think, well, I mean, you know, if it's people stationed in that area, I mean, how many crimes do they have? They could have been some of the least experienced people exposed to the case. They could have made mistakes. They could have been honest mistakes, you know, but that could have been said about any one of the people who dropped that ball. Of, you know, again, one of the first podcasts we made about this, we talked about how easy it is to, you know, they've got the phone, they've got the cell phone data, you know, they can, you know, so they had to know he searched. So, I mean, if it got dropped in the ball there somewhere, well, it's not necessarily all just in one person's problems. But, you know, I mean, with them, you know, having his case unsealed for a while, and now it seems to be sealed back up. And then, you know, like he was talking about, like he went and spent some time with the ISP, you know, and, you know, they don't really know what was discussed or anything of that nature. So it could be any number of things. You know, there's been that discussion before of, you know, if there is video, well, it's gone. Okay, well, it's gone, you know, but, you know, if they're discussing about that, and we already know that there apparently had been multiple people who had access to the phone was it Keegan or Kagan, whatever his name is, that actually did the search? Could not have been another individual, one of the other ones they suspect that may have been using that phone, as well. I mean, I don't know, but if there's no video, then, it's kind of like a moot point unless it's just, dang, we missed that chance. Oh, yes. But maybe that's just some of the discussions. They're trying to make him admit something, because they missed it. Go ahead.
Can you imagine the FBI having a video of a guy in a blue jacket and a hat and red hair walking in? Boy, that would be great, wouldn't it? That'd be great. So let me ask you this question right here.
Yeah.
How would you like to have the job of a local deputy or the FBI who's walking this case blind? Now, how would you like to have that job of being thrown in this case? Because, I mean, at first, from what I understand, everybody was like going, man, this is just some girls that ran off with some boys for the night. They'll be back tomorrow. But it didn't turn out like that. So, that's what everybody was assuming. The sheriff, that's probably what all the police were talking about. These girls ran off with some guy. They done picked up some old boy, We heard all the rumors. Oh, they were pregnant or this or that or whatever the hell it is. And, all of a sudden, the next day, you're finding bodies on the bank of the creek, I mean, I wouldn't want that. I wouldn't want the job these guys have. I mean, this is one of those deals, man. Boy, you see cases of this every day. How many missing persons are there? There's thousands and thousands a day. And some of them are legitimate, and some of them are like bad kids gone astray. I don't know who my kid is. Can you imagine, though, man, the family dynamics, the law enforcement dynamics? Man, I can't even imagine, just because they live in a town like we're living in here, I don't know if it's raining at your house, but it was at mine about 10 minutes ago. And that's why, we all living under the same cloud, and we all talk about the same thing. But, man, can you imagine what it's like to be a law enforcement guy or girl, woman, man, whatever, for working this case?
I can imagine just depending on, if I'm coming in, new eyes. I mean, of course, you're going to be exposed to, all the things that you've heard and the speculations if you've done any kind of, research or, any kind of looking before you was assigned the case. And, there may be some opportunities there for, discovery, but, as far as trying to get into the minds of what everybody has tried to cover and do and stuff, you almost would need, fresh starts. And then having to go back and re-interview all these people, knowing all the failure that's been, attached to this case up to this point, and like you say, I mean, it started out as just teenagers. Yeah, most small towns have it. They probably have 1 million of them a night. Somebody, a couple girls out past curfew, a couple boys, they've been going home before I call you daddy. It was that type of town for a long time, I have no doubt. So, but the false assumptions probably led to a lot of things getting lost, and then, of course, people thinking maybe they needed to cover things that they didn't really need to cover, such as the Ron Hogan stuff, we've discussed, and a couple other things. It might have had nothing in the world to do with it because it doesn't seem to actually be connected, type thing, even though it's coincidentally connected, and there's been lots of those things. But no, as far as being one of the first ones that just from the beginning just kind of did that and then just felt, oh, crap, Yeah, I mean, that would be, a horrific thing. And then those are some of the ones I would expect to want to find the answer the most. Now, if there's some that, either purposely hid things or, something like that, I don't necessarily think that's law enforcement. I think it could have been volunteers because there was no lack of them there for a while. And so any number of things could have just walked off that could have pointed to somebody else. But that's a what ifs and buts, and if we all had frog head wings, he wouldn't bump his butt when he jumped, So, but
hey, you make a real good point there, because let's talk about the DNA on this situation for a minute. it's always been a supposition of mine, and I think yours too, when we talked about this, is that whenever they happen upon those girls, they happen to come upon at least 2 or 3 different crime scenes. One where the shoe was found, one where the girls were found, one where something else was found, the cell phone. So there was 2 or 3 things going on there. And many, many people, hundreds of people have been out there on that site overnight. They're walking around, touch DNA, spitting, pissing, cheating on themselves. There was DNA every fucking where, man. So can you imagine?
Well, depending on the... Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
Well, all I'm saying is that you and I have both been talking about it. It was a search. It wasn't really a recovery issue. We were trying to find 2 girls, and everybody was out there. It probably wasn't even serious. They weren't. I've been on these searches for kids before. Jesus, I know about it. I've ridden down roads, took video, and all kinds. I've done this shit before, looking for people that are lost, or even a lost dog. It's more about the people getting together and talking shit. And of course, everybody's like, "Hell, that hound! I saw that hound over there at the pond about 2 hours ago." I mean, so it's like it's just bullshit at first, because until it gets real, then like somebody learns something, everybody goes, "Oh my God, this shit just got real." These girls think they're not just run off with the boyfriend; they're laying over there by Ron Logan's property, laid out dead. There's something going on here, This is not some regular bullshit, And you look back on that, and everybody walking up there, there's no telling how many. There were people probably walking the night before, and even that morning, and probably didn't see the bodies. But somebody.
Well, see, at the night, if they were doing some night searching right there, depending on the lighting conditions and that kind of thing, like you could pass within a few hundred feet of all of that, or even closer, 20, 30 feet with the right lighting conditions, and you would miss it completely. So and then of course, who's going to admit they threw up at a crime scene? Maybe the DNA was the first few people who found the bodies just, oh my God, and threw up because, they described it seemed to have, of a non-secular nature. And so, the DNA thing, especially well, it's not what you think. Well, yeah, we don't know what to think of it, But in a tidbit, that could be to either make somebody worry or, to just be a false trail for people to chase. So there's lots of little, possibilities with that. And, some of them seem to make a little more sense just with people are fallible. All them people are searching, Well, if the bad guy was amongst them and he was with somebody, who knows? He might have cleaned up after himself or made sure he did something. Ain't no telling.
Well, obviously you have a case this big in a small town. Like, I can understand some cases, like some of the cases around us right now. I've talked to various law enforcement, like, those guys, the mama loved them, the dad loved them, but they were mean. I've heard about some of the missing people around us. But the reality of it is that somebody did that, and they may or may not know. And in some cases, it doesn't matter. But when you're talking about 2 young girls, 13, 14 years old, 12, 13, 14, 15, whatever, they're all the same to me. They're not, those are people that are out there that are making sense of the world. And all the adults are teaching them about it, or should be. But somebody taught them about it very wrong. They deviated from the course. Okay, way the fuck off from the course. Deviation from the course. So now, people wonder why you and I, a bunch of other podcasters, talk about this. And this is the reason why right here. Because, this is an enigma. There were maybe some bad starts in terms of publicizing the case. Maybe that's big picture. On the small part of the microscope, looking way up close, maybe there were some tactical decisions that were made that probably were not advantageous for the case. But still, you know, even given all the extreme stuff going on with this case, the very fact that this case is not solved yet, you know, and people like criticized me on the last podcast because I got mad, I started cursing. Yes, I was very upset. I could not understand why this case has not been solved. But now, you and I have been looking at philosophical issues. We've been looking at this case, philosophical issues. We're looking at, you know, all kinds of stuff all the time. I mean, is this, I'm going to go big with this. So what is this? Why is this case an issue? I mean, this is a philosophical thing. This is huge because we have 2017, or now in 2022, almost 6 years later, and we're living in a world where stuff like this shouldn't happen. And I'm trying to make sense of it. You know, reflect just for a minute why this is not solved. I mean, your brain is very technical, and I like that because it falls in a chase. So given the investigation of the case, what you know about what the girls may or may not have been doing, I mean, follow this through. Be logical for me. Follow this case through. We've been talking about the beginning of the universe, and we dove deep with that. But with this case, I'm not asking you to be perfect. I just want you, with your brain, to dive back 5-6 years and help all of us. Just look at this thing. What we know, these new developments, all these old developments. What do you think? What do you see with it?
Well, I mean, as far as a step by step from, as far as how it happened, and seeing 2020 hindsight on certain things, I'm sure we were just discussing, there was plenty of the good old boy. Oh, it's just a couple girls. They're a little late. Miss Francis, she worries about the cat barking in the backyard. So there's going to be a little reluctance there at first. Most people are. Small town attitude. Again, you get the outlook of, that's big city crime. Two young girls getting killed out on the thing. Man, that's big city stuff. That don't happen in our small area. So again, your minds don't tend to go to there as first go-tos. And so then, whenever they actually started getting serious about it, and, there was lots of the, disturbings and the movings and the looking, well, everybody was now scrambling because of some of those realizations that, oh, this actually happened here. What should we have done? Because while I know most of them are probably trained, fairly well, or at least at some point have been, again, if you don't use a skill, you will lose it, and so there's going to be lots of goofs and mistakes and stuff. And this is one of those cases that really is, I kind of wonder, and I wonder and I don't wonder. And when I say that, I mean, I'm glad that it gets the publicity that it gets, because of, I think in some shape, form, or fashion, it's people are looking and hoping they'll stumble across something. But why just these two girls? Like you said before, plenty go missing all the time. Well, they don't get this kind of publicity. And then when you look at, the missing girl and the boyfriend, I didn't pay any attention to the case, but it was a girl and a boyfriend in the Florida thing, and Dog the Bounty Hunter even come out of retirement. Why was that one missing girl murder thing a big deal and not all of them? When you start looking at it from, I guess our point of view is we pick and choose which things we decide, outrage us more than the others. And then whenever it starts getting fed by the media in some shape, form, or fashion, whether it's a distraction, don't look over here, let's just pick the worst thing to make big news about it because it gets us ratings, because all them poor folks that aren't working, because you look at how, unemployment is and everybody's begging for workers, there's apparently people sitting home watching it all the time. So, from the perspective of being solved, it's humanity. It's human nature. We're fallible. You know, a tiny piece of evidence was missed. You know, it's outrageous. It's horrible that it happened. But how many cold case files are sitting back in the back room because somebody else made a mistake, but nobody else hears about? I just like the attention drawn on all of these cases that need to be solved. But as a society, why shouldn't we be paying that much attention to all of them? So now about that.
Well, I mean, yeah. That's a profound point. I mean, I like that. I mean, because of the fact that there's, you know, you're talking about Gabby Petito, or you're talking about Liberty German, or you're talking about even way back, Chandra Levy, or even further back, there's many others I can mention that people wouldn't even know about.
Right, and they all deserve justice. Every one of them do. You know, it's just at times I wonder as a society why we pick and choose certain ones to make sensationalized, to the point that, you know, like with there's been re-inquisitions, they sit down things, because we have as a people made a big enough stink about it to keep it in the public that if they pushed it on up the line and gave it priority. You know, and so it's kind of like, well, I mean, you know, if we were perfect, then I guess we should all expect that all the time. But I don't guess we will. You know, we're not living in a perfect society. Well, we are fallible. Well, you know,
exactly. And right now, there's always a bigger fish to fry. I know that right now there's in our society, there's all kinds of things going on. So, like we talk about the political stuff. I'm not going to go there. That's not for me to talk about.
No, please.
But now the FBI.
No, that's different. Go ahead.
Now the FBI is busy with that, and the FBI is busy with. They're still trying to finish up cases and get all this paperwork done. You know, so I mean, I understand. You know, law enforcement is a very hard task. I'm going to tell you, it's very hard. Anytime you're in any kind of military, if you're in any kind of law enforcement, what you're doing in the United States of America is you're having to follow lots of rules. And if you don't, you're going to be on a YouTube video. So it's a hard task. I mean, you're not trying to control people. You don't want to do that. That's America. If you've ever been in New Orleans, you'll understand what the Bill of Rights is about. But you're not trying to control. You're just trying to, you know, make sure that the ones that are coloring way outside the line, you know, these are the rules. It's a sketch here. It's a dotted line. I'm not trying to say that what you're doing is wrong, but I'm trying to say that I don't understand it. I don't know how to understand that in terms of the rules that I have. So if you're like, you know, dressed in a very different way than what I would normally come across, but you have genitalia showing, I'm gonna go, well, it sounds like something that's like where it sounds like an area I can't explain just yet. So I'm gonna detain you for a second, just to see what's going on. I'm gonna talk to my boss. We'll see what's going on. So, but you see what I'm saying? But like law enforcement is that in America, it's not just you can't just do stuff without following the rules. You know, so and whenever I think about law enforcement and working in any kind of government agency, I know you got more rules than I want to follow as a private industry kind of guy. You know, how about you?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you know, like just the parallel, like you say, they have rules to follow, and when certain cases get a certain amount of attention on them, they have to be sure they do everything a certain way. Because, you know, if they make a mistake now, then it's all done for naught. You know, so now like with these cases, you know, and like, you know, it got big, it got attention, and they started having to go, well, we got to be sure we do this right. Well, then, so when these folks are coming in behind these other people, and then they're just exposing the things that were missed and left out, you know, type thing. It's not still those people's fault that went back and grabbed Keegan and made him go spend time with ISP for a couple of weeks. You know, it was something in them rules said you did something you was not supposed to be doing. So therefore, we're going to be questioning you about it. We're going to search you about it. We're going to detain you if we need to, and we're going to move you around. You know, thus becomes the part of, you know, you broke the law. You know, and it don't matter who it is. Everybody should be, accountable for it. It's just, I because it seems to mean more to some things than it does in others, then the priorities don't get put in the same places. So yeah, the bureaucracy and the paperwork. There's that many cases. How many FBI agents were available in the whole state? How many other cases were other ones working on? So there's all kinds of things that we really don't know because we're not in law enforcement. There's lots of chains of evidence, verifying, affidavits and, because how many times have you heard the bad guy get out because, oh no, he signed this and he was really born in 72, or some crap like that. So each time this crap gets handed off to a new group, they've got to verify everything before they can really get started good. So I know that makes time stretch out, which is horrible, especially for the families and anybody wanting to see justice. These two girls, at least we can talk about these two and maybe get a solution for them. Even if I can't help all the rest of them, if we can help these two, awesome. Hey, that's what we want. Yeah.
Let's back our microscope back out a little bit, because also part of the Murder Sheet latest podcast, they were discussing a previous case, and it was an Olympic doctor. And this guy, oh my goodness, he was like, I can't remember exactly. I think they insinuated like 265 girls under the age of 18. He had assaulted over a whatever kind of period. And he was like the same state director of the FBI was involved with investigating that case, and there was all kinds of insinuations of corrupt things happening, and it didn't look really good for any kind of structure that the government pays for. Like if I hear of whenever I hear of any kind of corruption, kind of a government thing, I'm gonna call it. I'm gonna say, hey man, there's something here not right, and specifically when there's 900 other people doing the same thing. If you're just by yourself and you got a bullhorn on in front of McDonald's on a Thursday afternoon, I'm gonna laugh at you and go, right on, maybe throw you a quarter or something. But now, if you have a valid idea, to throw out there that you think that was made a mistake on, I want to hear about it. I think that law enforcement or whoever's a governing body should hear about it as well. But there are those things that happen out there. There are people that get into situations that are corrupt. There's people that are more or less scrupulous than what you and I are, and there are ones that are more. And the people that have more and better, values about things, that's who I want to be my leader. Those are the people I try to shoot after, because there's always easy ways to make money. Somebody come up to you and you're a prisoner guard at a prison, and somebody says, "Hey man, there's $1,500 in your mailbox, and all you got to do is just put that package is also in your mailbox in your pocket and carry it in and hand it to my friend." May come up to you, there's all kinds of things out there that can be bought and purchased. And there are also people out there that make really good decisions, and you can follow them. And when you know that what they're going to do is going to be on the up and up, nobody's going to raise hell about it because they know this person makes good decisions. Like right now, we live in the state of Arkansas, and we have a governor who is about to fade out, a Republican governor, but he's been on Bill Maher, if that tells you anything. Real time with Bill Maher. But this guy is, he'll fight the good fight. He's a guy that I trust to make good decisions. Now, he's not the only one I would trust to make good decisions, But, whenever people go into positions with responsibility, the FBI, the local law enforcement, state troopers, governors, the manager of the funeral home. I expect them to make good decisions. So whenever I hear about, government officials and the FBI making bad decisions in Florida and here and there, maybe in Florida. I don't even know. I mean, so many decisions. People are telling me different things. I have no idea what's going on. I don't know if what they're telling me about Delphi is true. I don't know if what they're telling me about Florida is true. I don't know anything. I can only trust the people that are talking to me. And, sometimes I believe what they're saying. But also there are other times that I don't trust the damn thing they're saying. And
your bullshit meter starts going off.
Well, it does.
Yeah, your BS meter goes off the top.
Well, and I want you to, tell me about yours in a second. But, we've heard many conversations with Doug Carter, which is the ISP superintendent, whatever he's called. And I've heard him talking about this case. I've heard him talking about Flora, which is another, very close case to Delphi. And other things. I've been sitting there listening to this guy, and obviously, he's one of those guys that, like we saw on, the little TV series. I can't think of his name right now. But the tagline is "I want to believe." Whatever that. What's the name of that TV series, Don? You know what it was?
You talking about the X-Files? I want to believe, yeah. Fox Mulder.
Yeah. So, do you want there to be people that they came across in that show where they're like upstanding people, and they're not lying? You can tell that. I mean, or do you want the evil villain that does everything wrong, and it's wrong, and at first you start rooting him on because you want to see somebody beat the system, but then you realize that the system is you. I mean, what's going on? Is there some evil twisted plot going on in Delphi with the change of the mayors and all this stuff? I mean, or is this just errors? I mean, what do you see here? I mean, just digging deep on the plow and where we're at right now. What are you seeing?
Just as far as all the political stuff in the town, I don't believe it. That's just more of the current day mirror of current day politics. That's just kind of just pointing and doing this and just trying to get publicity. If there was a mistake, I mean, if it was on law enforcement, I don't believe it was intentional. Because their ineptitude, if that's what you would call it, them being slow to get. Well, I mean, yeah, that's horrible, and there's no excuse for it other than, what do you call it? Whenever you get lax in your duties, type thing. You don't pay enough attention, and you done just been slack long enough. You lost your razor's edge. There you go. You lost your edge. Type thing. And mistakes were made, and then they got brought in the spotlight, and they were running around, and people didn't communicate. Or, again, everybody and their brother was involved in it, and somebody could have realized it was, oh, crap, that's Uncle Joe, and removed some little piece of evidence that would prove it, because of the way they said it was found. And then you've got proof of Ron Logan being around down there near that way. Well, was he there before, after, or during? Was he down there during and just did not see the bodies? I don't know how well his eyesight was. Maybe he got off there and pissed, and that's his DNA. Unless the killer was actually involved, and they've got just some reason they can't use a piece of evidence against, the Keegan or whoever else there that they mainly think. Unless it's a technicality type thing that we can't use this, we've got to get them to do this and make this connection, that we can't go anywhere with it, And so that could also be dragging it out. But the political side of it and all the maneuvering, I don't really I think they're wanting to get Bang and Buck off of it because it is a popular case. but I don't think they're actually doing anything to necessarily hinder it, you know. But I don't think they're doing a whole lot to actually promote it either, because I figure by this time it's long out of their hands. They're just sitting there signing off on the paperwork. Other people are working on it, you know, the FBI or either other detectives or people like us. You know, most of them are sitting there waiting for development.
But now, how great would it have? Excuse me. How great would it be to have film of a guy in a blue jacket walking in the marathon station? How great would that be to have right now? And then have his
that would be awesome.
Number and his credit card number. He walked in at 10:37 a.m. that morning. You know, he had his cell phone there. It pinged where it's supposed to fucking ping. And, you know, he checked the message from the girls. You know, and he walks in there with his blue jacket. And he used his credit card, whatever his last name, Klein, was. If it wasn't, whatever it was. And then, you know, walked out the door at 10:46. You know, I mean, that would be great to have. So, like, you know, sometimes those mistakes, they can be very expensive. But now you and I both know, for being old country boys, that there's more than one way to skin a cat.
Yes. But I've never done that.
I was trying to see if you could lead off that. That was an impossibility. I was testing you, my friend. That was a morning show part. All that philosophical shit of bullshit aside, that was like what do you want me to follow here? What kind of lead am I following, man? Brad?
That's right, man. I've never done that. Thank you. I'm a cat lover.
That, man. Ain't work with that, man.
No, I can't help you, both.
Hey, but you see though, if you start thinking about it though, and you back it up from that, I mean, I can see where it's kind of complicated. You know, like any kind of, I've worked inside a private business long enough to know that people are going to make mistakes, and you got to support those people. You know, because of the fact that, you know, they got the right. Not just this case. At first, this was missing girls. You know, they were. Right. This is what I heard about the case. These girls were, you know, they've been, you know, a lot of chatter about them lately, and they're probably just off with a boyfriend or something like that. Whatever.
Oh, right. Yeah.
But so they got behind. Now, see, that's the thing, though. You know, I've always thought about this. And I used to didn't understand bureaucracy. And you and I and another friend of ours have been talking about bureaucracy for a while. Our mutual friend cannot stand any kind of bureaucracy. I'm a systems kind of guy, and I always like to have. I think it's prudent to have multiple layers. It's the same thing as having multiple brothers or sisters, whatever. It's like having some quality control. You know, if you get other people involved in it, they're kind of looking at what's going on. You're talking every day. You know, you can solve problems before they end. You know, before they ever start. So, like a lot of people that are outside of structures always say, well, you know, meetings are dumb. We should be out there working. And I agree with that. But I also know that for meetings, and specifically the side conversations that go on, you can learn a lot. And I know that with this case right here, that there are people that understand how this case went down inside that police department up there right now. I mean, I know all these police guys. I work around these police guys. I've worked with them over the years. I mean, these guys are pretty hardy at what they do. I mean, a lot of them have a pretty good idea of what's going on. Like they have to follow rules, and you know, you can't get away with stuff like you used to. But there's a decorum expected out there. You and I have talked about a decorum lately. You know, there's a way you can act. There's a way that you, like we were talking about boxing. There are rules, and then there's decorum, and then there's shit that's outside of the ring. You know, so
Right.
I don't know. I don't see outside of the ring with anything I've seen from it. So, like, yeah, it may not exactly be perfect, and the decorum, may not have been exactly right. Now, I also believe there are mistakes made. If they would have had any kind of inkling that this case would have been big, I think things would have been different. But I don't think it happened like that because of the fact that I don't think that they really understood what was going on. But then again, I also think that the FBI was involved the first day. And if the FBI is involved, that means there's some kind of a serial case going on. So if you have all that structure and all that bureaucracy involved, these systems involved, and all these law enforcement people there, I mean, I don't understand this case. People, again, this is the second time I've mentioned it in this conversation. I got to cursing last time. This time I'm not cursing, okay? So, Sammy, whoever you are, I'm not cursing right now. But I still don't get why this case is not solved. I don't get it. There's all this stuff out there. There's surely with just the cell phone data they can solve it. If they can identify who was at Monon High Bridge and who was at Marathon Station, if it was an issue, that particular statistics could be attained from all the data. They could figure out who that is in 18 seconds from the right, squint, as they called them on the another show I liked. I can't think of the name of it. What was it? They called them squints. But what show was that, Don? Yeah.
I'm not old enough to remember. The tech guy.
Yeah.
Tech guy. I mean, I know you have to talk about it. Like, there's a tech guy. Somebody can go in there, go do a reverse IP address on the cell towers to triangulate the signal strength. I mean, tech guy. well, that's what I'm. Go ahead.
I'm trying to think. I thought a little bit about the show, and then I want you to take off with it. So think about what you're going to say. But now, the guy was an up straight-laced FBI agent, and she worked Bones. That was the name of the show, Bones. Bones. That's it. All right. Anyway, go ahead on.
Oh, no. I mean, that was fine. I mean, I knew what you was trying to say is tech guy. Anyway, I don't know. I mean, for any number of reasons, like you say, the bureaucracy, I don't know when the FBI got involved, other than just any kind of minor coordination, unless, like I say, it was part of an ongoing case or because, they found the, non-secular, ritual and that made them call in the FBI. There still would have been all of the initial contact, the initial, oh my gosh, da-da-da. And you're right, it would be awesome to have been able to, know for sure, that, hey, within a day or so, be able to get that data and it get to the right people. And they say, okay, well, let's go. It shows this phone has been here. Let's go see if we get any video. If the front line folks didn't, again, it's kind of a rural-ish area, type thing. I think we're probably more rural. But, I don't know how well familiar, look at how half the cops in our areas and stuff. I'm surprised they still don't keep ordering flip phones because that's all they know really how to operate is a flip phone. I mean, so, a little, maybe not the right tech-savvy people in the right spots at the right time at the beginning of this to maybe correlate that enough to be able to say, hey, this is a good idea. Let's go do these things. See what I'm trying to say? I mean, I just kind of think that could be where the mistake was made in that particular case, but we don't know because you're right. There's also all this, who's got jurisdictions, who's got this, when did they come in, what was the pretenses? Did they come in and completely take over the case, or did they come in and just pick it up after the state police reached a point and, I don't know those facts. You would have to tell me those if you know.
Well, I don't know them either, but I know that, like later as a code, whenever I go into a situation right now, I'm investigating a situation. I'm trying to figure out what happened, whether it be an accident, industrial accident, whatever it is, and I just go back as far as I can. Like, when did you start work? And try to figure out from there what happened. So, I don't know what the beginning would be on this situation, but you do a thorough investigation. You figure out what happened. You do a calls map inside of an industrial environment. You have a calls map. You go back and you look at, I mean, so I know these police people are doing it as well. Obviously, they're doing that. I mean, surely they're doing that. If they're not doing calls maps, some of the same people that I know that serve on the police force, at least the alternate cops, police. I mean, they're guys working in the industry. They know. They do these calls maps every day. So they're doing that shit, dude. I mean, these people are looking at this stuff. So yes, they're looking at all that. So somebody out there, they know what's going on with this. That's for sure.
Well, and it could be. And then, of course, you've also got, the time taken to, especially for like with the phone data stuff. I mean, depending on, when they got the search warrant and the phone data, you've got all these end user license agreements. You've got to get, the phone companies to cooperate. All that data's got to go to the FBI or whoever it's going to be. All that crap's got to go through their systems, and, they got to scrub it back and forth. So without knowing that, again, you're back to, well, who actually dropped the ball, if that kind of thing was, that kind of thing wasn't started, like if the FBI came in within the first 2 or 3 days, well, they had jurisdiction, well, then they probably should have been the ones doing all the and not dropped the ball in that case. But again, there would be a day or so there before the FBI got involved with it. And you don't know everything that happened there. I mean, somebody could have made a tiny rookie mistake, and I would love, if they realized they made a mistake, I'd love somebody to go, I made a rookie mistake, and we lost this chance. At least there would be the opportunity for folks to go, like you were trying to say, there's more than one way to get what you want done. If you know there was this type of evidence, but it got ruined, and somebody else goes, this triggers a series of events to come at it another direction. That would be awesome. But that's also one of some of the reasons they can't release all details of all crimes.
That's it.
They've got to also wait for some of the people.
That's right.
Right. Go ahead.
That's right. They got to. That's exactly right. Right now, there's somebody that knows they can confess what happened. Damn, I made a mistake, and but now they're trying to cover for it, maybe, or not cover for it. They have to go through another way of investigating the situation. In other words, that won't work in court. So now we got to go through another level of investigation. We got to look at it some other way, and they'll get the person. I mean, I've seen enough of those crime shows to know that they don't always know exactly who it is, but it's somebody they talked to maybe early on, and then they moved on because they ruled them out. That's what always happens, or and sometimes it's just some random ass person, that's moved into the neighborhood. I've seen so many cases, and one of them sounded so familiar to this, is that in that it's somebody that would probably be ancillary, and you go, oh, shit, yeah, I get it now. But whenever you're looking at it with a microscope, you're not going to see it, and that's what a lot of these police people are doing, is that they're looking at, man, they got a piece of paper there with 4 or 5 words written on it, and they're told to go investigate it. And they don't have, it's kind of like whenever I learned about the history of the United States of America, and I learned about George Washington, and if you a historian that recently passed away, was David McCullough, and he talked about this artificial future, like or a future that was already determined, a determined future. And that nobody that you ever read about in history, they have no idea how it's going to turn out. I mean, it makes sense at the end, but during the middle of a problem, you don't know how it's going to turn out. It could be bad. You're just trying to fight for a particular way. Whenever George Washington was, going across the Potomac, I mean, he was assuming that he would make it to the other side. He didn't know that he would until he got there. You never know. People do try things every day, and they don't work. So, anyways,
well, there's one way that you can kind of understand. I mean, why it can't be solved yet is like, if there was a mistake and someone did own up to it, but then they can't admit it because it would mess it up, and they're having to spend all this time approach it from an oblique angle, to try to get the evidence back or proof of the evidence that they no longer have. That's a very good, easy explanation of why, it could be this. So that might help you understand a little bit, even though that's all just speculation and from asshole to elbow right there.
Well, like you say, though, from a lot of cases we've seen that turn out like this and drag on and on and on, it's usually something like that. It's not something that you can talk about. You can't put it under your microscope and talk about it and look at it. You got to wait. No. You got to let it play out and then go back and look at it when it's done. But
then you go, oh man, it's obvious. It's like the Sixth Sense, that movie, M. Night Shyamalan. Oh, it's obvious. The guy's dead.
Yes, I should know. I knew it all along. Phenomenon. That's what it's called. Yeah, that kind of thing. And with this thing, like 6 years is coming up, and it's pretty weird that Kagan's court is like 3 weeks before this, so that's when his court is scheduled for now. It's been put off and put off and put off. So now it's not unusual for court cases to be put off. I've seen a bunch of court cases put off about running a little newspaper thing. It gets delayed, and being on jury duty, you understand it gets delayed and delayed. But now, a lot of times whenever they're delayed, there's something going on the background. In other words, they're negotiating something. They're trying to figure out a way forward. And, of course, law enforcement does not put people in corners typically unless you're in a very hot box, in which case you always need to say, I need to talk to my lawyer. You don't ever want to be in a hot box, whoever you are, and never talk to police. That's one good advice they always say. Even if you're perfectly innocent, you want your lawyer there. But the reality of it is that with all this going on, this case, all the stuff going on with it, is that, from looking at other cases been solved and the cases that have not been solved, really, we just have faith in law enforcement. That's hard to say. But now I believe that they get stuff right the best that they can. I understand people make mistakes. I guess it's the whole point of this whole thing. I can't. In fact, the thing I wrote down.
If a mistake was made at all, we don't even know if a mistake was made. Right? Yeah.
What the name of the title of this podcast was "Would You Want That Job?" And that's the FBI.
No kidding.
I don't think I would want that job. It's like just us, just trying to look at this thing. Just the intricacies, the political parts of it. I've got a 13-month-old child at the house. I hadn't slept in 4 days, and you want me to get up at 6 a.m. and go deal with this after I've been patrolling all night and want to spend time with my child and my wife? Yeah, I can understand how mistakes can be made. I get it. I'm fallible. I've made lots of mistakes. But now I don't work for the government. I don't have that kind of stuff going on, so I don't have the kind of scrutiny these guys have. And, a lot of times whenever you hear about people making mistakes, they get some kind of a transfer or administrative leave. It's different. So, you have to watch that case really close to pick up on all that. But honestly, I believe that most people do the best they can. My opinion.
Oh, I have no doubt of that. No, unless you're, part of the guilty party, I don't believe any of them are ever made out of, malicious intent. Not when you come to something like this, of course, you know what I'm saying? Because, who would want that on their conscience, of course, that, I deliberately got lazy and just didn't want to go do something, and this murderer got away with it, and I had to turn around and get caught. Anything of that nature. And again, it's not just this case; it's many, many cases that are like that. So, I'm not sure, man. I think it's kind of, just a systemic of, you can only, put people in positions by, having the people in the right positions to put them in those positions. And people, people can fake it, in today's society and stuff. It's real easy. I know in your particular field, how many padded resumes you see that say they can do all this wondrous stuff because there's probably no way you could ever really check them on it, type stuff. And, so you get people that can be good at a certain level, and then because of, they want more, too much ambition or something of that nature, they move themselves up to that next level, and it's too much for them. And they struggle. They struggle, and they refuse to just, look, I was happier back down one level below. So they struggle. Well, now the system's messed up from that point. So now you got an incompetent in a position, putting incompetence below him because he's too tied up to put the right person below him. There's, we see these examples all over. It's nationwide, worldwide, probably universally wide. There's always going to be that little bit of ambition that somebody's going to be in a bad position to make bad decisions. Now, whether they think they're bad or we think they're bad, now that's a point of view aspect, bad guy to a good guy. It's all in your perspective there. So, but from, society's point of view, yeah. If somebody had made a mistake, they would not want to be responsible for it. Anybody with a conscience in law enforcement only wants to do the best job they can. Even the bad apples probably started thinking they were doing a good job. Don't mean, that they were. They could have been doing things from our perspective that was bad, but to them, they thought that was doing the job they had to do. Oh, I was a good cop, and then got busted for something. Yeah, that can happen. People are fallible. I don't believe that's the case in this, because, again, I don't believe there was any malicious intent in any of this. If mistakes were made, they were made. There's hopefully we can find a resolution to it, regardless if there was mistakes, and maybe even better in spite of a mistake, would be even better, more satisfying, even though it took longer. But yeah, I would love to see them. Hey, we've got him. We can announce that we have finally, charged that KK with the murder of da da da. And then release some of the evidence that supports it for, the people who really pay attention to it.
Well, if it were just that easy, although I don't think it's him, and of course,
but my point. Yeah.
I know, that's the point though. And I was going to say, and I agree, and everybody else doesn't agree, and these agree, and they don't agree, and it's a circle. And 1 week I heard people, they're on that guy. So, yes. Can you imagine, though? I would not want LA's job, man. I don't want it in this case. I don't want it in this case for sure. There's easier times to be a judge than in this case right now, specifically since we don't have all the information that we probably need. But, man, anyway, hey, my thoughts and prayers, which they always say, but I don't know how other way to say it, but, with those girls and their family, man. That's why we talk about this, is that I would love to, I want someone to call me at 2 a.m. and say they got this son of a bitch. That's what I want to hear. You hear me?
There you go. I heard you.
All right.
All right,
I'm
man.
out of here, man.
We'll talk to you later then.
All right.
All right, bye. I heard you.
All right.
All right,
I'm
man.
out of here, man.
We'll talk to you later then.
All right.
All right, bye. I heard you.
All right.
All right,
I'm
man.
out of here, man.
We'll talk to you later then.
All right.
All right, bye. I heard you.
All right.
All right,
I'm
man.
out of here, man.
We'll talk to you later then.
All right.
All right, bye. I heard you.
All right.
All right,
I'm
man.
out of here, man.
We'll talk to you later then.
All right.
All right, bye. I heard you.
All right.
All right,
I'm
man.
out of here, man.
We'll talk to you later then.
All right.
All right, bye. I heard you.
All right.
All right,
I'm
man.
out of here, man.
We'll talk to you later then.
All right.
All right, bye. I heard you.
All right.
All right,
I'm
man.
out of here, man.
We'll talk to you later then.
All right.
All right, bye. I heard you.
All right.
All right,
I'm
man.
out of here, man.
We'll talk to you later then.
All right.
All right, bye. I heard you.
All right.
All right,
I'm
man.
out of here, man.
We'll talk to you later then.
All right.
All right, bye. I heard you.
All right.
All right,
I'm
man.
out of here, man.
We'll talk to you later then.
All right.
All right, bye. I heard you.
All right.
All right,
I'm
man.
out of here, man.
We'll talk to you later then.
All right.
All right, bye. I heard you.
All right.
All right,
I'm
man.
out of here, man.
We'll talk to you later then.
All right.
All right, bye. I heard you.
All right.
All right,
I'm
man.
out of here, man.
We'll talk to you later then.
All right.
All right, bye. I heard you.
All right.
All right,
I'm
man.
out of here, man.
We'll talk to you later then.
All right.
All right, bye. I heard you.
All right.
All right,
I'm
man.
out of here, man.
We'll talk to you later then.
All right.
All right, bye. I heard you.
All right.
All right,
I'm
man.
out of here, man.
We'll talk to you later then.
All right.
All right, bye. I heard you.
All right.
All right,
I'm
man.
out of here, man.
We'll talk to you later then.
All right.
All right, bye. I heard you.
All right.
All right,
I'm
man.
out of here, man.
We'll talk to you later then.
All right.
All right, bye. I heard you.
All right.
All right,
I'm
man.
out of here, man.
We'll talk to you later then.
All right.
All right, bye. I heard you.
All right.
All right,
I'm out of
man.
here, man.
We'll talk to you later then.
All right.
All right, bye. I heard you.
All right.
All right,
I'm out of
man.
here, man.
We'll talk to you later then.
All right.
All right, bye. I heard you.
All right.
All right,
I'm out of
man.
here, man.
We'll talk to you later then.
All right.
All right, bye. I heard you.
All right.
All right,
I'm out
man.
of here, man.
We'll talk to you later then.
All right.
All right, bye. I heard you.